Supernatural Season 14 finale, Mariah. So this episode was utterly insane. I mean, honestly, right now, I think it's 3 or something. It's 2 in the morning, not 3 in the morning. It's been a crazy day. So, went to see Avengers. It's like, excitement for that is, through the roof. And it's a good movie, by the way. You should check my review if you're interested. But I was like, man, that's leading up to Avengers. I've been super excited for a long time. But I tell you, every freaking season that this show starts, we get to a season finale and Carry On My Wayward Son hits, I'm like, man, I'm just through the roof on the excitement. It's just insane. And it's just like, it's been a crazy week leading up to today where, earlier this week Mortal Kombat came out. I had to get that and try to beat it before I left to Japan, which I'm doing tomorrow. See Avengers, review that, see this, and review it now. And it's like, do all this stuff and just be like, I had to do it before I left the country. Otherwise, it would be like a week late on the season finale review. Unfortunately, the other show I was going to review, Gotham, had its series finale, and that didn't record. That's like a whole thing with my recording where it's literally set to record, and I check it every week, and it's just like, it just doesn't. So I'll see it when I see it, I guess, the series finale. But had to check Supernatural, had to watch the finale, and it's funny. It started pretty early on, too. I was like, okay, watching it, poof, here comes Chuck. And I was like, that's funny, because I'm pretty sure in my last review, I was like, that would be interesting. Like, things have been super crazy. It would be crazy. It would be wild if Chuck just showed up out of nowhere. And I was like, they wouldn't do that, though, because it's just Chuck. It's God coming in out of nowhere. That's too crazy. That's way, way left field type of thing. That would be nuts. Turns out that's not that crazy. Turns out it's just a good thing to do because that's insane. It's like, holy crap, here comes Chuck. And I swear, I don't know what the deal is. I think the progression of Chuck as a character, or, God, has been like, okay, he's this dude who's a prophet, seemingly. And then it kind of just continues on, and he just becomes more and more of a dick. And that's been God for the series of Supernatural. And this was the pinnacle of that. And it was really interesting, because before, it was like, okay, God has gone through, we've seen Chuck do some stuff here and there, and his whole thing is like, I'm kind of hands off, but sort of only when I want to be. So we've seen him interact. Like, that was kind of the big thing when his sister was involved. Chuck was kind of just up and down throughout that season until they finally revealed, like, officially, like, Chuck is God. But it was just like, okay, that made sense. His whole thing was, like I said, being hands off, but he was still kind of in this weird middle ground. It was like kind of dickish to be hands off when it's like you could just save people. You are God. But it kind of worked a little bit. And then, Amara comes in, his sister, like, things have to kind of be done. I was like, all right, takes off, sure. And then this episode comes along, and it's just like, man, it wasn't just the fact, he's God. So, of course, the whole thing was always like, well, naturally, he knows what's going on. He was literally in it, when he's first introduced as Chuck. It's like, you were literally just there, like, oh, this happens and that happens. He was just doing stuff. And then it gets to this episode, and it's just like, every step of the way, literally, he was there. Like, he watched, Sam even asked, like, were you watching us when you're off making these other universes and stuff like that? And it's like, yeah, you guys are my favorite show, which I can relate to. If I could help, I probably would, though, compared to him, where he's just like, I just want to see cool things happen. And then he makes a gun where it's like it's a double-edged sword or double-edged blade or whatever it is. I can't think of what I'm trying to say. And it's like, here's this gun that can kill Jack. Like, if it, whatever happens to the person that is shot happens to the person that is shooting. I was like, okay, well, that's crazy. Of course, it's that whole concept of, like, who lives, who dies, Sam, Dean. I wasn't really worried about Cass dying. But it was like, Sam or Dean, who's going to, pick up the gun and shoot it. And, of course, Dean, going through his thing was like, I want the kid dead. Like, he went from a son to just being another monster, which I thought was a really interesting moment where he says, like, Jack's just another monster. And it was just like, all right, how in the world does this episode play out? Like, what is going to happen? Because they aren't going to kill them. And if they do, Chuck's right there. He wouldn't let them die anyway. It was just crazy. And so it's going through, and it gets to the point where Dean, of course, is about to, shoot Jack, and he decides against it. And he throws the gun to the ground, and you see Chuck get upset. Like, even Sam says, like, you're enjoying this. He's like, shit, like, I want to see this play out. And then Dean throws the gun away, And Chuck is pissed. He's like, no, like, this isn't the cool story I wanted to see. Like, he even references, stuff from the Bible. Like, I want to see some cool old school stuff happen. Like, fathers killing sons, things like that. And it was just like, holy crap. He's not only, not really interested in them, or I shouldn't say interested. He's not involved with them, but he manipulates them to see cooler stuff happen. And it was just interesting. It wasn't just, well, I kind of throw you guys in and then just, I throw you on the field, see how the game plays out. It's like, no, that's not what he does. He's specifically, pulling these strings, and he's realized how to do it in a fun way for himself, at least. Because like you mentioned, other universes, just squirrels. One's going in reverse, which I thought was really interesting. And I just thought it was cool. I was like, okay, so it's not like he just makes these things and then he takes off. Once he's making another world, he's just like, well, that's happening, and then I'll jump when I jump back in, then I'll find out how things have changed. He can see them. He can be over here making 800 more squirrel worlds, and then he can just be like, huh, okay, that's interesting, let's see what Jack can do. And he lets it play out because that's what he wants. Makes the fake gun. He makes a gun. He claims it's the only thing that can destroy Jack because he acts like he's vulnerable. He acts as though it's apocalyptic. Well, I guess technically it could be. We don't, considering Jack was like, stop lying, and it actually affected the world. He probably wasn't too far off with the whole, like, he sneezes and I think he mentioned like India disappears or something like that. And so it's like, technically, it is kind of a well of untapped potential, dangerous untapped potential. So who knows? It kind of made sense that he'd be like somewhat worried, and he probably could have just saved his soul, but then it would have been like, oh well, that's just a nice, solid, happy ending, and it's like, well, that's not what I want to see. I want a cool story. And he gets pissed, and then Sam grabbing the gun and he pulls the trigger and it cuts to commercial. I was like, man, I didn't know what to expect there. And of course, he ends up just shooting Chuck in the shoulder, but I was like, if he shot him and killed him, and then they killed Sam, but he killed God, that would have been nuts. But I don't know. It's hard to say, but that kind of leads me to believe, especially final season, it's perfect. All these years I've been saying it. God's going to be in the final season, and I guess he'll be the enemy. Not how I initially thought of it, I guess, for like the past 8 seasons or so, where I was just like, oh, God's going to pop in. That's how you end it. You end it on God, which you do. I just didn't think he would be the final bad guy. If they can even get to him, which I'm sure they will in some way, shape, or form. They'll figure that crap out. But, man, it was nuts. He kills Jack. Fortunately, Jack is in the empty, and then we see Billy pop up, and she's like, yeah, we should talk. So I was like, okay, at least that means he'll still be in the final season, because I was upset. I was like, it's cool, it goes back to, Sam, Dean, and Cass, but I was like, it's Jack. Like, I don't want him gone. So he ends up in the empty. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain. It's raining, like, super hard right now. But, excuse me, he's in the empty. Billy shows up. It's like, we should talk. So who knows what that means. And then, of course, we have everything going chaotic. It was interesting. Like, it goes from day to night. And it made me think of the crazy monster world, because it was just like, well, it's just nuts. Like, things are just crazy and weird. Like, it's just not right. And spirits are going off. And they do a bunch of references. So they have, it's basically like Bloody Mary, the ghost girl, and like the white dress, which is just any creepy random thing in a white dress. Yeah, the creepy clown as well. I'm pretty sure those are specifically 3 different characters. Like, I think the girl who was the ghost in the white dress, I'm pretty sure that was a reference to the very first episode. I feel like all those were early, because like Bloody Mary, I'm pretty sure was the 2nd episode of the series. So I was like, okay, these are like, old references. The clown didn't look exactly like anything, but it was like Bloody Mary, and like she puts her hand on the mirror, and then, like I said, the girl in the white dress, even though that was technically like, I don't know why I even remember this from the first episode, but it was like a girl on a bridge. But I'm pretty sure she was in a white dress in that as well. But I was like, okay, this is cool. And then all the spirits like just dropping in the bodies and kind of just making zombies, reanimated corpses. And it's just Sam, Dean, and Cass surrounded by just bodies coming out of the graves. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, that's the ending. And I'm pretty sure the song was saying like, God's not on your side and stuff. Like, I didn't catch that until like it ended and the song was still playing. I think I heard the guy say, God, it's never on your side. I was like, man, this is a crazy freaking episode. Starts off really funny. I was like, all right, let's see, how this ends up playing out. No one can lie or anything like that. And then God shows up, which is insane. And then it's like, here's the, double-sided gun, basically. And then it's just like, yep, all that was a lie. I just wanted a cool story because that's what I do. I'm a writer. I like to see cool stuff play out, and I just pull the strings. It's like you kill him, and I'll bring your mom back. Like, just crazy dark stuff like that. It's like, pull the trigger, kill this kid and yourself, because I'm pretty sure Dean still would have died. I don't know if you would have brought him back. But it's just like, man, every time this dude shows up, he's just a worse and worse person. And it's God. And it's just crazy. And I was like, I don't know what this means going into the final season of the series, but I'm so excited for it. I think this was a great ending to the season, because I mentioned my review for the last episode. I was like, man, how do you kind of continue on with an episode that ends, considering like Jack was the main villain? I was like, all right, well, what is the threat that suddenly pops up in one episode? And it's God. It's God getting pissed off at two people and just dropping the whole planet. And just be like, F it. Everybody's dead. Just spirits can do whatever. I don't care. And he just lets them go free. So, crazy season finale. It's already super, super late for me, being 2 o'clock in the morning when, normally if I had work tomorrow, I would have been asleep a long time ago. I would have been asleep at like at least 11 or maybe midnight at the latest. But yeah, so it was just crazy just sitting there watching this episode. I'm like, I still gotta pack. I'm up super duper late, and I'm just like, I have to see this episode. I have to see what madness is gonna come from this season 14 finale. And it was way crazier than I truly thought. Because like I said, me referencing Chuck in my last review was like, that would be cool, because Jack being on the scale that he's on, it kind of would have made sense. But I was like, that just wouldn't happen, because in my head, I wasn't going, oh, Chuck will come in and then that'll transition into him being like a douchebag and ruining the planet. It was just Chuck would come in and he'd be like, hey, things are crazy again. Kind of like the first half of the episode, where it was like, things are just really intense, or really most of the episode, until they kind of realize what he's doing. And it was just like, things are intense. I'm here to kind of help you out with Jack. That's what I thought. That's as far as it went in my head. And I was like, well, they wouldn't do that because it would just be a solution and then no problem. Turns out it was just 100% problem. It was a fake solution, and it was just him manipulating them again because they're his favorite version of Sam and Dean. So I think we're in for a good final season. Based on the way this ends, that's all I can hope for. It's a great final season for legitimately my favorite show on TV. But I love this. I thought it was a great finale. It was, just watching it play out, because like I think it was at like 40 minutes by the time they actually get to the graveyard. And I was like, holy crap, it's already been 40 minutes. I felt like I flew through this episode and not much has really happened. It's been like, talk with Chuck and stuff. But the way it's paced out, where it's like, okay, Chuck comes in to help. They have, this tense decision. And of course, Dean is like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sacrifice myself, kill myself, and kill Jack. There's a lot of tension and mystery as to how, of course, how is this really going to play out? Are they going to die? Who is going to die? Chuck's there. If someone died, he'd just bring them back, right? So it was kind of like, well, how does this work? Where, like I said, where is this threat that I'm looking for that leads into the final season of the show? Or even if it wasn't the final season, what's the cliffhanger? What's the cliffhanger threat that they could possibly make? And it turns out to be Chuck himself, where he's mad he didn't get the story that he wanted. And then he's like, well, screw it. I'm going to let you all die now. This is the end. So it was really crazy. It was crazy going into this, where it was like, just some of the funny stuff that happened, where it was like, when they pulled the trigger, that made me think, especially after having just seen Avengers, I was like, man, that was like that same level of intensity, where I'm like, that gunshot was in my head like the snap in Avengers. I'm just like, what just happened? And then, of course, it was just in the shoulder. It was a little clip. But that leads to just somehow them saving literally the end of the end of the world. Like, it's just crazy. So I'm looking forward to the final season of the show. I don't really know what to expect. I don't know what craziness they're gonna pull up with Jack and Billy and Empty, and who decides to team up with Sam and Dean, who's gonna be an enemy literally at the end. I mean, do they go into the alternate world that we saw in the last season? There's just a lot of questions. Like, he obviously left that. He was just like, whatever, and he just let that go. So they went into like this crazy war where the angels became the villains and they were killing everybody off. So what does that lead to? Where do we go for this next season? Who is good? Who is bad? Obviously, God's bad, but a million questions on that. Like, how do you kill God? The bullet hit him, but that was another thing I noticed. 'Cause I was trying to see like how is that going to play out, but it just hit him. Like Sam bled, but Chuck was just like, oh, okay, like he messed up my shirt, which he was wearing red, by the way, and I noticed that. I was like, well, that's interesting. Like, guys wearing red, it's kind of like a devil color type of deal. Of course, they really utilize it. Obviously, you know, the devil's eyes are a different color than other demons. Obviously, when Dean was Demon Dean, he wore red compared to any other time. And it was like, huh, I just happened to notice. I was like, oh, it's interesting that he's just wearing this red jacket the whole episode. It was like, he's Chuck, he's God. And I don't think we've ever seen him in that color, that specific color before. I think the closest we saw may have been orange. I feel like he was wearing orange when he was talking to Metatron and he like revealed like his whole story and everything. I felt like he was wearing orange or something like that. I'm probably just making it up in my head just to make things make sense, like his transition into being full on crappy God. But I definitely noticed that. I'm pretty sure that was on purpose because they utilize red for sure in this show to be like, nope, red is bad. Kind of like, the normal connotation, but it's like, Lucifer, red, Demon Dean, red, and then Chuck coming in this whole episode, wearing the red jacket over everything else. And I was just like, that's interesting because he's also never dressed up. I think that was why it caught my attention so much because I'm like, Chuck's never ever dressed up. I think even in all of the season, where it's like, hey, we got to deal with your sister and all this other stuff. I don't think he was once dressed up. Like he's normally wearing like button-up shirts, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just like, huh, that's interesting to see him like kind of in this kind of nice jacket and stuff. And I was like, that's something about that was off to me. And I think that was kind of the point, was that it's like, hey, he's dressed a little fancy. And of course, they use the color red. But it was interesting. It was a crazy episode, crazy, insane ending. I can't wait to see the premiere just to see how in the world they explain how Sam, Dean, and Cass even remotely managed to escape a horde of corpses, reanimated corpses attacking them because they literally just get swarmed. And I was like, how are they supposed to get out of that? That doesn't make any sense. It wasn't even like they were fighting them off a little. It was like they got jumped right off the top, and it was like, oh well, they're swarmed, and that's it. But of course, that's how it ends. They'll be fine. I don't know if we'll get a time skip or anything like that. I would assume we will, just to see how crazy things get, like for the rest of the world, and just how much madness there truly is. So, man, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what they do in this final season. Can't wait to see what in the world they end up doing with Jack. That kind of brings back the Lucifer thing as well. Like, is that going to work? Is that not going to happen? I don't know. But so many possibilities. Can't wait to see what they do with it. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this finale. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. Naturally, I would love to know what you guys thought about this season as a whole, what they did with Jack, the unfortunate loss of Mary, which just sucked as a whole. But I'd love to know what you guys thought about this. Naturally, Chuck, like thoughts on Chuck, good Chuck, bad Chuck, current Chuck, past Chuck. I don't know. What do you think about that? I definitely want to know. And of course, your predictions, or just things you want to see for the next season, because it's sadly the end. I was thinking about this a little while ago, so I figured I might as well mention it since it's going to be my last review for a minute. But I was like, I think it was like randomly in the shower, and it popped in my head. I was like, the last episode, when they do The Road So Far, it's going to be the whole series. And I was like, holy crap, that's going to be like oddly emotional. For me at least, if you're watching this, probably for you too, because no one watches these reviews. So if you're watching this, you must really love Supernatural. That just popped into my head one time. I was like, holy crap, The Road So Far for the last episode of the series is going to start from the very beginning, and it's going to go through every single thing they've done. It's probably going to show like every single main villain that they've killed off. And then it's going to be like, then it's going to, get to where they are. Which I think even in this episode was the longest recap they've had. Because I feel like they don't, it's probably not the longest one. It's probably just the longest in a while. But they don't normally get to the part in the song where they were at. Where the guy's actually singing. Because it normally stops like with the beat. It doesn't normally get to that part where he's like, he's singing like no more. And he's just carrying the note out. They don't do that part very often. And I was like, that's interesting. It's normally just like cut it, right to the beat. I was like, we don't get that very often. So I thought that was interesting, how long they did the recap for. But yeah, that'll be cool for the final episode. They're gonna show every single thing. I would love for them to do what they did for the 200th episode, where they showed all the title cards. I would love for them to do that as well. I don't know how they would do that because they rarely actually do that for the final episode. Like I don't even remember if they did it for this one, but they must have. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I feel like for the finale, they don't do the title card. They do like the road so far and show all the all of the season. So I can't actually remember if they show the title card for this episode. I don't remember if they do that for any of the finales. Now that I think about it, but either way, I would love for them to do that and show like every title card, and of course go from the very beginning of the series all the way up to the final episode. But that still got a little bit of time for that one. But really good finale. Really excited for how in the world this is supposed to play out. And of course, it's Chuck. You ended on God. I've said that for years. Like that's how the series was meant to end. Like you ended on God. Thought he was going to help them stop something else. Like I said, didn't think God would be like the main villain. I just thought he would show up at the end of the series. And he's been there, and he's been here, and he's been gone. He's back again, and he's the bad guy. So crazy way to end the show. God's the villain. So some people might not be happy about that. It's a funny show. When I think about this show, it's like, man, you just can't be religious and watch this, I don't think. But I just love this show. So I can't wait to see what they do with the final season. Like I said, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this season as well, of course, as the finale and all the madness that came from Chuck making his return. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.